Hi everyone, nice to see you all. Welcome to my first online cookery lesson. I've got Mary here to keep me company because it felt a bit lonely on my own, and we're going to make scones. So first of all, go and wash your hands. We know how to do this really well by now, and we'll get on. So I'll put the recipe up on Google Classroom when I put the video on. But I'll just run through the ingredients you need just now. So self-raising flour, of which is a little bit difficult to get hold of at the moment, sugar, margarine, I know I promote Stork, but any bacon margarine will do, some milk, and some sultanas, raisins, cherries, cranberries, whatever you want to use. So first of all, measure out 300 grams of self-raising flour. It's quite a lot of flour. You can always half the recipe. And then 50 grams of sugar. And put that in with the flour. Then we want 100 grams of margarine. And pop that into the flour and sugar. And I usually like to just chop the margarine into the flour a wee bit. Give it a stir. And then the bit you all love, getting your hands in. And remember, we're just rubbing the margarine into the flour. So you're rubbing it. We're not playing with it. Do this for as long as you can. Remember, sometimes tickle it, I often say, until it looks like breadcrumbs and there's not any big lumps of margarine left. So, Mary, how are we doing? I've got my flour and sugar and margarine all rubbed in, and we're now going to add the raisins. Now, I just usually add a good handful. You can add as many or as few as you want. Give that a stir. You'll notice I'm using a knife for most of my stirring. Scones usually turn out much better when they're not handled very much. So a knife doesn't mix too thoroughly. I've now got 180 mils of milk, which I'm going to pour in. And using a knife, again, not a spoon. When I say a knife, just a normal knife you would use to eat your dinner with, just a round-ended knife, not a sharp one. So for the next bit, we need to sprinkle the surface you're working on with some flour, just so it doesn't stick. And then tip out your mixture. Let's see if I can show you it. On top of the flour. And get a wee bit of flour in your hand, we sprinkle over the top, and then handle it as gently as possible. It's not like bread where you're going to be kneading it. You just want to get it into a nice flat shape. So if you get your mixture into just a nice shape, flatten the top. You can use a rolling pin if you want to, but you don't have to. It doesn't want to be thin. I would say about 2 centimeters or more if you want. And then you can use anything really to cut out your shapes. If you haven't got a cutter, don't panic. You can just cut some shapes out with a blunt knife or a plastic cup, anything that you can find really. So I'll see how many I get out of here. So I forgot to tell you about the tray you're going to put the scones on. If you get a baking tray and just a wee dribble of vegetable oil, and then use a bit of kitchen roll, just rub it over. And then the first scone can go on. Get as many scones as you can out of the first shape. And then just mush it back together. Again, don't overplay with it because that's what gives you a heavy scone. And we should get maybe a couple more. So now we have our scones. We need to just brush the tops with a wee bit of milk. Just do the last couple and then they're ready for the oven. Now these go in the oven and it's a hot oven. I'll put the temperatures on the recipe, and for about, I find, between 10 to 15 minutes. You have to kind of keep your eye on them. It depends on what size cutter you've used. If it's a big one, they'll take longer, and if it's a smaller one, they'll not take as long. So you need to make sure there's an adult around to pop them into the oven for you and to take them out after 10 to 15 minutes once they're nice golden brown colour. So that's the scones in the oven. Now, while the scones are cooking, it's a good chance to keep on the good side of mummies and daddies and do the washing up. So the scones have been in for about 12 minutes and they're looking nice and brown on the top, so I'm going to take them out. There we go. If they look something like that, then they'll be ready. So once they've been out the oven for a couple of minutes and they've cooled down a wee bit, you can pop them onto a cooling rack. Again, get somebody to help you with this bit. There we go. And you'll probably find anybody in the house will be down to see what the lovely smell is by now. So Mary, how did we get on? I thought that wasn't too bad for a first lesson, although very much out my comfort zone. So here's our finished scones, and Mr. Richardson likes jam and cream on his scones.
So I'll try a dollop of cream. They certainly look very good, Mrs. Richardson.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Try a bite.
What's the verdict?
Very good scones, as always, Mrs. Richardson.
From me and Mary, until next time, happy baking.